guys, and welcome back to Note-Taking Strategies, Effective Ways to Take Notes. Now, this is part 2. If you haven't checked out part 1, which is a video all about how to take Cornell notes, you may want to check that out because it's super helpful and a lot like these. Because today, we're talking about outline notes. Now, I just want to point out that the same as Cornell, for all of these note-taking strategies, it's important to utilize skills such as underlining, highlighting, and color coding, as well as symbols and anything like that to make sure your notes are very visually helpful, because you want to be able to look back at these days or weeks later and still be able to pull out that important information. Now, as you can see here on the slide, outline notes are set up to have a main idea on the right side of your notes, and then have that indented and to start a secondary idea on the next line. So it's very easy. The farther left you go, the more specific the idea is. So let's take a look at how that would work. Outline notes can just be done on a regular sheet of paper, or they can be very well done on a Google Doc. Google Docs are set up for outline notes, and you may know this if you've ever been working on a bulleted list in Google Docs and hit Tab. The tab shifts it over. It sometimes makes a new little icon to indicate that this is a different list, and it's very, very greatly laid out for outline notes. Now, step 1 of outline notes is picking a relevant title. Just like all other kinds of notes, you want to be able to come back to this much later and know exactly what this set of notes is about. And it goes right there at the top, easy to read. Step 2 is to add a date and class period in the top corner. This is so that you know when you took these notes and if they're relevant to the test you're studying for and what class they're for. You don't want any of your notes to get mixed up, and that can be really helpful. And if you ever lose your notes, they can return it to you because they know what class you have. Now, your next step is going to be to start with main ideas. You may start out with a bunch of main ideas laid out separately, or you may start out with one main idea and just repeat these 3 steps over and over again. Because the next step is to add secondary ideas to your main ideas. These would be indented over and added under your main ideas, and they would include additional information and maybe even more extensive ideas about your main ideas. Main ideas can sometimes be very short, just a word. They can also be an entire line. And secondary ideas are usually going to be a little bit more of a deep dive into that information. Maybe your main ideas is a singular word, and then your secondary idea is a definition of that word, and you extend on that in step 5, which is specific details and other definitions. This is going to go even more under, and it's going to include specific details such as names, dates, processes, words with definitions, and other things like that, depending on what class you're taking these for. Now, you may notice that although this stops here, you could continue to go out. That's totally realistic for you. If you're doing a very specific class with a lot of definitions and a lot of notes, you may end up going out a few more levels of specificity while you're taking your notes, which would just mean picking a new little icon and using that as your bulleted list, moving a little bit farther onto your paper and continuing there. Perfectly reasonable for you to do that. And you can have as many main ideas as you want, but it is good to split it up a little bit so that your main ideas are separated. Now again, it's going to be important to use circling, highlighting, boxing in things, underlining things, all that good stuff to make sure that it's really easy to read through your notes to find main ideas and important information. There's going to be a lot of bulk in your notes, such as ands and ofs of the world, but you want to box and mark the important stuff. It's also important to pick a normalized thing for you to do this with. You may circle all of the names that you ever write in all your notes, so that if you see a circle, you know it's a name. Or you may bold all of the words that you know you're going to define. So you might want to pick something that you're going to do across all of your notes that follows the same pattern of symbols that you're going to use. Now, why don't we do a practice? If you want to practice along, you can get a piece of paper or open a Google Doc. Here is an excerpt called The Cell. This is a biological excerpt that goes over the processes of the cell. There's obviously going to be a lot of vocabulary in here, and they expand a lot on the ideas of different kinds of cells, the forms they come in, and go into a lot of definitions. So this would be a great slide to take specific outline notes over. Good luck!